In today's video, we're going to apply lifting, tapping, and sweeping grace notes to a few different melodies. Stay tuned. Well, hello everybody, I'm Willis Bagpiper, and on this channel I make videos to make you a stronger and more confident piper. If you like this kind of content, please think about giving the video a like, subscribing to the channel, commenting below with any thoughts you have, and sharing with any other pipers in your life. I also give Skype lessons if you want more personalized instruction, but more on that later. In the description below, there's a link to the PDF I have right here of this exercise, so go ahead, print that out, or put it on a tablet, have it in front of you so you can follow along. So in the last 3 episodes of my Basics series here, I've gone over how to separate notes using various grace notes, lifting grace notes, tapping grace notes, and sweeping grace notes. But they were all just basic scales, and we can only take so many scales before we all go a little, well, nutty, or we just don't practice them. So I thought I'd throw out a couple of tunes here that would help bring this all together for us. So the first tune is Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Yeah, I know it's pretty basic. It's not traditionally Scottish, but it allows me to, well, show all 3 of the primary lifting grace notes in a tune so you can kind of get used to doing them in a melody I'm sure you already know. Now, something I did not go over in my other videos that I wanted to take a second to talk about now is my use of highlighters and how I like to use them to, well, highlight the grace notes. I've been doing this since 2001 with my students, and I've used these same 3 colors. Not these exact highlighters, but these exact same colors for these grace notes. For the lifting G grace note, I like the neon yellow. For the D grace note, I like the orange. And for the E, I like the pink. I'm going to take a second now and actually fill out the grace notes on this page. Now there's a couple of reasons I do this. One, the part of your brain that associates color with something is very different than the part of your brain that associates place or shape, or at least so I've been told. I'm not actually a brain surgeon, but I've been told that, and it seems to work, so I'm going to trust it. The other thing is we're going to find that a lot of our grace noting is going to start falling in patterns that we get used to, and that's great until we run into one of those that don't follow that pattern. When you're in an advanced beginning tune or an intermediate level tune, you might find a passage of grace notes that is quite tricky compared to how your fingers want to do it. But if you've gotten used to highlighting your grace notes in tunes, you can then go and just highlight the few grace notes you're missing, and like that with just about every one of my students and with my own playing, I find it fixes it so quickly. So this is a nice little hack, a nice little cheat, one I do to this day in tunes when I'm having issues with the order of grace notes. I think it can help an awful lot, so I recommend it. It's not very hard to throw a few highlighters into your music binder. So now, with that highlighted, we're ready to go ahead and give this a go. I got my Soundburner wearable metronome here, and the app is free, so that's great. Free metronomes are awesome, and if you want to get one of their actual cool watches, I do have a review up here. It's pretty nice to be able to feel the beat, but not necessary. But I can feel the beat right on my wrist. All right, let's give this Twinkle Twinkle a try. So as you play through this, again, I very much recommend a metronome. Try to get the actual grace note motion itself right on that click, like they're one in the same thing. Also, watch for crossing noises. There's quite a few places in this tune where they can creep in on you. Between the E and the D in line 1, huge chance for a... We don't want that. Remember to lift before you lower, as I talked about in one of the earliest videos in the series. We gotta get that bottom hand out of the way before these come down, or we'll hear that low A or that low G. We don't want that. And then in line 2, we have that same E to D switch right at the top, but then we also have a B up to E, which you can get a crossing noise right there. Remember that the top ring finger as you're heading from B to E has to get out of the way before that one comes down. So as you're playing through this, make sure you're avoiding the crossing noises as well as getting the grace noting correct. Now for the second Twinkle Twinkle down here, we're going to go ahead and use sweeping and tapping grace notes. And for all of these, I use a blue highlighter. Now, The blue highlighter most of the time is a little dark, so I don't actually highlight the grace note itself. I tend to use symbols right above it and kind of make some tilde marks actually for my sweeps. So I'm going to tell you right now, those two grace notes on the low A are sweeps. There's really nothing in the music to tell you that, and we're really only going to be using this eventually in the embellishment of a burl, where we'll go into that and, you know, more on the burl up here. But I'm going to use a little tilde symbol above it, and then for the other taps, I like to make just little V's in blue above them. And the V basically being a downward arrow showing me that it's definitely going to be a lowering motion. But when I see blue, it's going to mean either a sweep or a tap, and you tend to only have one option. The D is the only one that you tend to have an option for either a single finger tap or a full tap down to low G, and it's pretty clear in the music when you look at it whether it's a C or a G, so I don't feel that I need separate colors for each one of these tapping motions. Just the blue alone tells me I'm going to be either lowering or sweeping the fingers. All right, I got that all highlighted. Let's go ahead and give it a go. Got my metronome going. Now, before we start, notice the rhythm's a little bit different. This is going to be bum, 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 1, 2, and 3. So it's got a slightly different rhythm. This is like Twinkle Little Twinkle. It's all right. Makes it sound slightly more Scottish maybe, but it allows us to get some sweeping motion in with our pinky. So we're going to go ahead and double that second note and make it 3 low A's before we head up to that E. Thought I'd point that out before we get started. So there's another way to start practicing those grace notes, this time the tapping and sweeping ones. Now we're going to move on to a more traditional Scottish tune. We have a simplified version of the classic Rowan Tree right here, and this is going to have lifting, tapping, and sweeping grace notes in it. So we're going to see lots of colors on here. I'm going to take just a second and highlight this all up for myself. So as we look through this tune, we can see there's only lifting G grace notes and various tapping and sweeping grace notes. There's no D or E grace notes that we're using to separate notes. Now, when we get to the full version, there will be D grace notes and E grace notes that we're going to use for a variety of purposes, changing for emphasis, but that is the next lesson. This is a simplified version, and we're going to just worry about trying to get this down as it is right now. I'm going to go ahead and slow this metronome down to 72 for this one, and I'm going to be starting on beat 4, because the pickup notes there are 4, a 1, and I'm just going to play through this. If you need help counting, there is a video up here about how to count out the rhythms in this tune so that you can make sure your rhythms are correct. That's beyond the scope of this video, but I've already covered it for you. When playing through this one, set the metronome at a place where you're going to be successful. If 72 is too fast, that's fine. Slow it down, find a speed that works for you in your world. Well, there you go, guys. There's just a couple of simple tunes to take the idea of separating notes and apply it to melodies rather than just scales, something a little bit more interesting, and will definitely help get you ready for the next step, which is changing notes with lifting grace notes. That'll be the next few episodes in my basic series, which are already up and ready. So when you have mastered this, their material is ready for you to keep on going. Well, thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you got something out of the video, think about giving it a like, subscribing to the channel, commenting below with any thoughts you have, and sharing with any other pipers in your life. If you want to go the extra mile, you could head over to my Patreon, where as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping support the channel. You'll see some names scrolling over my face right now. These are the fine people that are helping, well, keep this channel going. I would love to add your name to this list of fine people. All the support really, really does help. If you want more personalized instruction, I do give Skype lessons. Go ahead and head over to www.mattpiper.com or email me at the email you see down here, and we'll get you going. I'm working with people from all over the planet. I hope to work with you soon. Thanks again for watching, everybody. I'm Matt Willis Bagpiper, and until next time, cheers.